So you want to be a flight attendant, you want the 411, you want to know what it's like, what to expect, and is it worth it? In this video today, I'll be talking about my experience as a flight attendant at one of the major 4 airlines, what my experience was, and what I wish I actually knew before going into it. If something that interests you, stay and watch to the end of the video where I'll share some raw, interesting takes on being a flight attendant. So you've seen the cute outfits, you've seen the reels of the flight attendants just traveling the whole world. They look beautiful, they're having fun, life is great. And you're thinking, hey, I want to be a flight attendant, I want to live that life. But here's the truth, there's a lot more turbulence in this process. And I'm here to not bash anyone or any airline, but to share the information that I wish I knew at the beginning. So let's start with, I worked for a major airline and how I got in. So a lot of people, before I became a flight attendant, this wasn't something I was researching. This wasn't something I was looking to become. It was none of that. I was like, oh my God, I've been applying for 5 years. The way I ended up becoming a flight attendant was someone sent me a job referral on LinkedIn. And it was for this airline. So I went to the interview. When I went to the interview, I realized it was a big kind of summit thing. And I just went through the process. So I waited in line. I went through the whole hire on the spot thing, all of that. And I went through all of that. And then, so I went through all of that, and somehow just through basic of that, I ended up getting the job. When I got the job, I still had no idea what I was working, what I got myself into. None at all, because again, I didn't do research. I just happened to have my passport. I happened to be in a town, in a city where they are doing on-site hiring. I happened to have someone reach out to me, and really that's when I became a flight attendant. It just happened, but it wasn't something I was striving for or looking for. It was my first time applying. It was the only airline I've ever applied to. So as I was going through the process, I was kind of getting more excited, but again, I had no idea. And maybe some of you are like, girl, why are you watching the videos? But I'm gonna say this to a girl like me and what I wish I knew. So something I didn't know from the beginning was that I had to spend almost 7 weeks in a hotel. So the training is about 7 weeks. And when I thought they said trainings, I thought because I lived in the city, I'd be able to come back home and all that, but no, you really gotta live in that hotel with a roommate. Depending on the airline, some of them don't have roommates, but for the airline I was working with, you did have a roommate. And my roommate was kind of opposite of me. She did not end up being a flight attendant bestie. It was just, this is too messy. Don't hate you, but I really don't like you. So there's that. And so we go through training. At the time, I was running my marketing business that I'm still running now, and I had just onboarded some new customers, some new clients, 3 of them. And these are pretty well-paid contracts that I landed. And so in my mind, I thought that I would be able to do this training, and then after these trainings and these classes, I would be able to work on my business. When I saw the schedule, in no way, short or way did I think that it was going to be rigorous, like an extreme college course on crack. If you're coming from an airline, it'll probably definitely be more easier, but for me, I had no idea of aircrafts, I had no idea of terms, I had no idea AFA, I just had no idea. So I had to learn all of this, and there are tests, so you only have 2 chances. So basically, if you fail a test, you'll get another chance to take it. If you fail it again, then you're out of the training. And so it was almost, to me, I felt like I was in a reality show. I had to keep separate to not be in the drama, and then I had to study. To me, it just felt like at any day, at any moment, you can be dismissed. So I really say to myself, studied, and I could not do anything outside of flight attendant training. I would not recommend it. If you have a family, I'm not saying you can't do it, but just let them know you're gonna be ghosts for the next 7 weeks until this ends. It's really a short time of suffering, I guess, for what you get, but still very rigorous. You don't get paid really a lot, depending on the airline. You're not making any money, and then you're traveling. If you happen to go through the training, which we started with 80, and I think we ended at 45. So people were dropping like flies. So if you end up making it to that, you're still going to need more money saved. So that's the next part that made it really difficult, was that you weren't making money and now you have to do this huge life transition because of where you're based. Because you're just starting off, you're more than likely going to get a crash pad, or you're gonna have to find an apartment or a roommate in that city. But the thing with these airlines, they're great, but most of them, the really top big fours, are in major cities. And major cities are expensive to live in. So that was a challenge for me. And then the airline that I work with, we do reserve, which means you're pretty much on call for all the days that you're working. So if you're on for 16 days, which is pretty standard, that means within rolling 24 hours, they can call you up to 3 hours before the flight. You need to be at the airport ready to work. And so you can live there while you're on probation for 6 months or whatever the time frame of what the airline requires for you to be on probation, or you're gonna get fired. So it's pretty rigorous, and I had no idea. I also had no idea how much we don't get paid for boarding. And yes, contracts are being negotiated, if you know a little bit about that, but who knows when that's gonna settle. So I don't like how much doing ongoing training you don't get paid for. I'm talking about the guides that we have to do on our laptop. I don't like boarding that you don't get paid for. I don't like that the flight gets canceled, delayed, you don't get paid. There's so many things we don't get paid for. So I feel like even though the pay is pretty higher wage than an average job, if you really do the math of how much you don't get paid, we're pretty much getting paid minimum 15, 16 in the beginning. Of course, the more days, the more years you spend, the better your pay gets. So I do think it definitely pays off. I just think the first year or two, you're going to have to work a lot to make some money. The good thing is, if it's a major airline, you can pick up your trips and you can make that money. Even though I think we're only on 16 days, you might need to pick up at least another 7 days to make your money over the guaranteed base pay. So that is something I wish I knew before, because I did not have that much saved. I just put all my stuff in a storage and I went to this, just life on a limb. What I would do different. So my experience was a little bit different because I met someone at flight attendant training. It wasn't until almost the 5th or 6th week that I met this person, because his roommate got sent home, and when roommates get sent home, they move people around. So his roommate got sent home. He ended up being at the door next to me. That's a story for another day. I didn't really find him attractive, but the long thing is that I did have him. So my burden of, we ended up living together shortly, and he provided a lot for me in that moment, because I wasn't really working, obviously, because I'm a flight attendant, and it was hard to get another job, even though I was working, building my business up again. I wish I didn't let go of my business for this, because my business was way more sustaining than being a flight attendant. So that's something I wish I did differently. So I live with my ex-boyfriend now. I would not recommend doing that. I feel like I didn't get to enjoy those first few months because I was in a relationship. So I had to come home, and I didn't pick up trips that are really far. I didn't really do what I wanted to do because I was in a relationship. Maybe that's why I don't like a relationship right now. But I would recommend not being in a relationship, and I would recommend not getting into one, because it's like, do you really like them, or are you guys just in close proximity going through survival mode again, and any kind of relief is going to be accelerated. So I would do that differently. I would go for an airline that doesn't have full reserve. Being on reserve is very tiring. You never know what you're gonna get or when you're gonna get, and you can calculate it through the system if you get an understanding of it. A lot of us learn how to work the system, but in the beginning, or you don't go under someone who does, anytime you're gonna get all these crazy trips that you're gonna hate, you're just gonna have to learn to work the system. So I'll say that. And outside of that, because you're always gone so randomly, it's hard to have anything. It was really hard for me to not have a schedule, not working out, not eating at a scheduled time, don't know when to sleep. You're sleeping in the day just in case they call you at night, but then they might not call you at night, so then you're up all day, and then they might call. It just is very unpredictable. And so if I could do something different, I would go to an airline that has a set amount of reserve days, on-call days, and the rest is a set schedule. Now, you do get to a set schedule in these other ones. It just will take time. It can take 6 months, it can take a year to be a line holder. And a line holder is basically where you have these trips that you're going the whole month, you have a set schedule. And so a lot of senior mamas and papas are line holders, and sometimes they release their trips you can pick up, but eventually you get to a line holder. I just would rather a place that has just a few reserved days, 6 to 8 a month, than completely reserved. So the next thing I want to reflect on is the parts that I loved. The part that I loved was seeing the world, of course. There's places I've been in the US that I probably would have never went just because in my mind they weren't cool. Why do I want to be there? And then there's places that I probably wouldn't afford anytime soon, like Japan and China, that I wouldn't go if it wasn't for me being a flight attendant. It has allowed me to see the world and to see a lot more. I love our layovers. We get beautiful hotels and it's free. Sometimes it's not always the most beautiful, but it's free and you get to experience a slightness of luxury living. Now you might not have money on these trips, but at least you'll get to see the world. So I did absolutely love that. If you know me, you know that I love nature. So I just love seeing different parks. I love being in the sky, seeing the sky. Seeing the sunrise from the cockpit is so different from seeing it in a high rise. So there's a lot of things supernaturally for someone as spiritual as me loved. And then there's a lot of things if you just are a visionary person that you get to see and get to do, which is great. The next thing is you make these unexpected friends all around the States because we're flying and working from all these different places, and you can make a best friend for 24 hours who works for the same company. You might not see them for another 6 months. But I do love the relationships that are formed, the customers that I meet, the places that I get to go, the interactions that I get to have with all sorts of people from all different backgrounds. And for me, again, someone who likes studying people, I get to see different cultures and how they act and how you can just tell where people are from. It's a super surreal experience, 100% worth it, I would say. And so overall, it's just really the whole prospect of how I grew as a person and overcame obstacles and all these things because I was a flight attendant where you just have to depend on yourself. It was a great experience. It is something that any job or any area in life, there's going to be some bad that comes with the good. But if you are set on making it a career, there's a lot of growing opportunities outside of being a flight attendant that will still allow you to have flight benefits. If you do just want to be a flight attendant, because a lot of people get paid really well, 10 years in, you're making the salary of a lot of people who work more corporate executive jobs. You'll be making the same. So I would say long-term is a good path if you don't really want to be in a relationship and stuff like that. You can get to it, but for the beginning, the younger you are, I think the better it is. And again, I wouldn't recommend the first year to be in a relationship because that was my mistake. And I'll share some pictures, but last but not least, what I'm doing now and would I do again? I would 100% do it now. Right now, I'm waiting to transition to a different company. So would I do it again? Absolutely. And what's the next step? So the company that I want to work for, I won't share the name because when you're in these trainings, really limit what you put online. Even your training, just be very selective because they do check all of that. So I'm waiting for a company that more aligns with what I want in life, which is a better set schedule. I do want children, I do want a relationship, and as much as I love the sky, I still have to come down and live a life. And so I'm switching company, but I would 100% recommend it. If you have any questions, this is a quick snippet. I'll try to be more thorough. I'll make a video just about the training and the uniform, and then I'll make a separate video for some other topics, just to keep the video short. If you have any questions, comment below, and I'll be more than happy to recommend.